Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is higher education in Tennessee, and we're fortunate to have with us this morning to talk about higher education in Tennessee the Chancellor of the Tennessee Board of Regents, Dr. Charles Smith. And Dr. Smith, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Haney, for the opportunity to be here.
You know, I think and to talk about what has to be considered one of the most important topics, and I'm sure that you believe that to be so, that we could even talk about this morning, because we are talking about higher education in Tennessee. Before we do that, though, Dr. Smith, let's give you an opportunity to give our audience some information about Dr. Charles Smith, that is, about your background, your education, and some of the things that eventually led you to the Chancellor of the Tennessee Board of Regents. And from that point, then we'll talk about higher education in Tennessee, give us an overview, and then we'll become more specific later on.
Well, Dr. Haney, I appreciate this opportunity. I've been fortunate in my life. I grew up in a small rural community by the name of Sparta in Middle Tennessee, and went to the public schools there. Went from there to the University of Tennessee and received a bachelor's degree in journalism, and then later came back to Peabody and there received a master's degree in English and a PhD in higher education from Peabody College. And I've had the opportunity over the last 32 years to work in higher education, first with the University of Tennessee. I was chancellor of 2 of the University of Tennessee campuses over a period of about 11 years, and I was vice president over 2 different areas of the statewide UT system for about 9 years. And then Governor McWhorter pulled me away from higher education for about 7 years to be his Commissioner of Education on leave from UT. And then when that time was up, unfortunately, my predecessor, Dr. Otis Floyd, died unexpectedly, and the Board of Regents asked me to consider taking his position, and I've done that for the last 6 years. I've been very fortunate to have the opportunity to work in all 3 grand divisions of the state and to be a part of higher education over this period of time.
You know, Dr. Smith, I think that when we talk about higher education in Tennessee, why don't you give us some idea of what that means in terms of, from your perspective, when you think about how the system is organized and et cetera. Give us some information about it.
Well, we have 2 distinctly different systems in Tennessee, and I spent a part of my life in one and now I'm in the other, and I truly believe that the Board of Regents is really the system of the future in the sense that we have all 3 types of higher education opportunity. We have the technology centers, 26 of those centers. We have 14 2-year colleges, and we have 6 universities, including Tennessee State University here in Nashville, under our administration. And so we touch the lives of every citizen who wishes to pursue a post-secondary education. And we have 182,000 students, and which makes us the 7th largest system in the nation. And I really feel that higher education is the future of any state. To the degree we are able to do what we need to do, then the state is going to benefit from that. I think it's truly an investment and not a cost, and I think that's a message that we need to communicate more and more to the people of Tennessee.
You know, there seems to be some question in reference to the kind of support that the citizens of Tennessee are willing to give to higher education. Why don't you talk about where we stand in terms of, from a national perspective, right, when you meet with your counterparts across the state? Where are you within that group?
Well, if you look back over the last 10 years, just take that one yardstick, what we've seen happen in Tennessee is we've slipped from a relatively low position on the standings to the very bottom. And while we have been standing pat or even losing ground, the states around us like Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, all the way around and then all over the nation, we have begun to really now fall behind those states. For example, in Mississippi, which long has been considered to be actually below Tennessee in its support of education, if you look at the last 10 years, the state of Mississippi has increased funding for higher education by 93%, which makes it #1 in the South and #2 in the nation over a 10-year period. Arkansas is in the top 10. Alabama's in the top 10 in the nation, and we're down at the very bottom. And I think what that has done is create a circumstance to where we're no longer competing effectively in multiple ways, and as a result, we face a very difficult future unless we can find ways to fund the needs.
Now, is it really a problem of money, Dr. Smith, as people have indicated, or is it a problem of our inability to deal with education? I mean, what is the real problem?
Well, I think there are multiple problems related in Tennessee. One of those obviously is the funding. I mean, we've reached the point now to where the funding differential is so great that it's having a dramatic impact on the future of higher education. But it's more than that. I think we're in a situation in Tennessee where recent data show that only 16% of the adults 25 years old or older in our state have a college degree. Now that compares with 20.3% of the nation as a whole. Well, 4.3 percentage points doesn't seem like a lot, but when you quantify that, it would take 134,000 more Tennesseans today with a college degree to catch up to the national average, and it's a moving target. And so we know we're slipping farther and farther behind, and that's going to impact economic development. It's going to impact industrial development. It's also going to impact the revenue flow into the state through tax dollars.
You know, we've had some question, I think, in this state in reference to the income tax and some of these other taxes. But now, it seems that the statistics that you're using are the folks who are responsible for our taxing problem. Do they understand these same statistics, and how do they justify not supporting those?
Well, Dr. Haney, I think the good news here is that for the last year, this current calendar year, we have been given an opportunity and even encouragement to really put on the table for discussion some of the things I've just mentioned. If we had done this 2 years ago, 5 years ago, I think either no one would have listened or they would have been critical of the fact that we were being critical. But now I think people, certainly the legislature, I would say that probably 95% of the members of the General Assembly understand that the needs of higher education in Tennessee are real. I think a growing percentage of the general public recognizes that. So I think the debate about whether higher education needs more money or not is not the debate it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago, but the problems on the other side, which relates to taxes, which is beyond our realm of control. And so the ball is in somebody else's court there. But I do believe the needs are out there now and the people understand it.
Now, if you had an opportunity to talk about some of the improvements that you'd like to make, if you had all of the resources necessary, what would you do in terms of your charge dealing with those institutions that you have the responsibility for?
Well, I think that probably the greatest single need that we have is to improve our level of pay for faculty and staff. Now, that may be a strange thing to lead with, but let me explain why I think that is so critically important. We know today that a faculty member at any of our institutions, on the average, would be making $10,000 less a year than they would be making in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. You pick the state, and that's how far we're behind the national average. And it comes at the worst possible time because we have 36.5% of our faculty who will retire in the first decade of the 21st century. That's because that's that wave of people who were hired when the baby boomers came to our campuses all across the nation. And so we're going to lose nearly 4 out of 10 of our faculty just through retirement alone in 10 years. We also know we've fallen so far behind that we may lose another 2 out of 10 because of salary inequity, which means we'll be replacing 6 out of every 10 faculty members in a 10-year period. And we're going to be doing it at the worst possible time from a competitive nature. We're simply not going to be able to get the best people. And if we have 5 years of bad decision making because of inadequate funding, we could influence a half-century of the future for Tennessee with hiring of good quality faculty.
Very good, and I think that gives us an opportunity here, Dr. Smith, to have our first commercial break. And we'll be back with you following this short commercial break.